Hello, everybody.
I'm so scared of what Adam Siegel said. Did he tell jokes? Did he tell how do you find Will Smith in the snow? Okay, good. So we're all caught up. You look for the Fresh Prince. All right, here we go.
So Tim Lee came down with some appendicitis, so he couldn't be here. So he called me and asked if I would come do this.
Thank you.
And they were going to send me a link, and then I didn't realize it was on iTunes, so I went ahead, contributed to the cause. I bought it last night around 3:30 in the morning. I thought, well, let me just start watching it now, in case the day gets away from me today, and let me at least make some headway. Bad idea, at 3:30 in the morning, you turn it on, you go, okay, from the credits, I go, I'm going to end up watching this whole thing, aren't I? Because it's terrific. It really sucks you in, and I just really enjoyed it, and I really thought you did a fantastic job. And
thanks so much, man. Thanks for doing this, too.
Oh, absolutely. I was really, really impressed.
It'd be weird if you weren't here and it was just me.
And no, I was just really impressed with it and really wondered, when we start to make a movie, there's the movie we have in our mind, and then there's the movie that it becomes. And it seemed like you're really open to circumstance and to the magic that would happen around you. What was this when you thought of it, and then what did it become, and what did it become before your eyes?
Well, I had the opportunity to work in Detroit just for about a week. And, I'm from Canada, so let's just get that out of the way. And I always, what was that? Okay. All right. So, I forgot they serve beer here. That's cool. Okay, so, I always wanted to go to Detroit. Like, for me, Detroit was far enough away that I never got there as a kid, but it was close enough that it was like, it was like the biggest American city closest to me, and it just seemed like everything cool came from there, like Motown and Eminem and, Motor City, and it just was the picture of the American dream. And when I got there, it was very different. There was 40 miles of abandoned neighborhoods. They were shutting the streetlights off, declaring bankruptcy, cutting the water off to some family. And within it all, there were families trying to hold on to their homes in these neighborhoods. And it just seemed like the dream had kind of turned into a nightmare. So I thought, I'd like to try and make a film about that. And then I didn't know really how to do that. Even though I've acted in films, I didn't really know how to, make one. And so I got a Red camera, and I just started going there when I had time off over the course of a year in filming. And, I started, and then after a year, I realized I had all this footage, and I thought, I guess I'm making a movie. I should get people here. This is lonely. But I feel like this drill. This is kind of like
Sometimes you start shooting almost like a proof of concept at first, right? It's almost like something attacks you with this idea, and you start filming it, and then you realize, it's a project. It wasn't really official at first. What point did it become official? Like a year later, literally like a year later?
Yeah, and then a year later, I met a lot of people, and I realized, okay, I felt like this is so surreal, even though it's very real. And I thought, in a way, a fairy tale approach might be the way to go about this, because it's the only thing that can kind of tackle how surreal this feels, and so then I wrote it, and then the actors came aboard, and there were people there, and so it took after a year of just shooting on my own before it really started.
It's also interesting that you're Canadian, because I've always found that sometimes movies about our country are done best by people not from this country, because we take things for granted. We don't see it with their eyes. Seeing it with your eyes, I don't think we would have gotten it. Like I think why you went towards the surreal to really, make it feel more like what it was like when you were there. What did the script process? How did that come about? Did you realize, okay, let me start trying to write this out, and how long did that process take after the year, or did you already start writing it during that year of planning?
I was sort of writing it during that year, but it took like 4 or 5 months to finish the script. And at first, it was just sort of trying to tie all these fairy tale themes into this one, using Parsifal and the Red Knight for the dynamic between Bones and Bully, and then those were just the way to start it, and then they kind of like evolved. But it was trying to keep a balance between the fantasy and the reality, never having it completely go fantasy, and trying to see it through the filter of these two young kids, you know, who would, in a way, come up with this idea of a spell just to make what was happening to them seem important or romantic or interesting somehow. And you know, and you know, anyway, that was what I tried to get into the script, but really it doesn't come into life until, you know, until the actors are there and bringing life to it.
I was really impressed, especially because how bold it was. You know, as a filmmaker, sometimes you shy away from trying things because you don't think they were. I mean, you jumped the line several times. You know, things that you're not supposed to do, you just did. And I liked looking at those and going, "Oh, that does work." I wouldn't have the balls to do that on my own movie and try it and then find out in the editing it didn't work. So I kind of go the safer route. So I loved how bold, you know, a lot of it was. Was it because you didn't really know how to make a film and you just kind of went that way? Or did you like go, I'm going to on purpose go this way because everybody always goes that way? That's what I was interested in.
No, I mean, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, you know? And, but your movies are pretty, I mean, Dusk Till Dawn is pretty goddamn bold. And it does, you know, and it does the same thing that, you know, we tried at that idea when they go to that club and it completely flips and everyone's, you know, vampires. I mean, it's more exciting your way, let's be honest. But you know, but yeah, I mean, it's like watching people like you take those risks and think, oh, I'd like to try that. And you know, we just tried to do it in a way that would still sort of keep it in the reality and tie it into the sort of vibe that was in Detroit at the time that we shot it, you know. But it was like, you know, there's a scene in the movie that I love where this woman starts dancing with Bully's character, you know, at the gas station. And, you know, that was a situation where, okay, so we're shooting at this gas station. It's the only gas station for, I don't know, for blocks. And I think they're selling something at the gas station that's not gas, okay? And I don't know what it is, but people really wanted it. And they were not happy that we were there because they just felt like they couldn't get it, you know? And it got really tense. And they started like kind of, you know, it felt like it was going to get a little crazy. So we thought, just forget it. Let's just, okay, let him in the scene. You know, we'll just keep shooting. And at a certain point, this woman, Mama A, comes in and she starts like eyeballing Matt Smith, you know, and she's like undressing him with her eyes, you know, and she starts dancing with him, and he did such a beautiful job. I thought of like bringing her out of the reality of that neighborhood in Detroit and kind of bringing her into Lost River, you know, and suddenly the fantasy was dancing with the reality, and the movie really came to life for me in those moments. I thought, like, this is why we're here. So we kept trying, even though we're shooting the movie, we kept looking for those opportunities to sort of like, you know, feather it in.
Yeah. No, I felt like that. I felt like you were really taking advantage of the moment, which an actor does, almost like an actor approach to directing, because there's that idea that it starts out and then what it becomes and what just circumstance happens. It seemed like you were really in tune with not just, okay, I'm going to get my plan, I'm going to shoot outside of the plan as well, because that's the life. I mean, I sometimes purposely now make my schedule shorter, my budget shorter, so that accidents can happen, those magical moments can happen, because inevitably the people come up to you and they say, you know what part I really like, and they tell you, and you're like, oh, well, we did that because we ran out of the sun and we had to do something else to creatively solve the problem, and that's the magic. I think because people are imperfect and they kind of gravitate those things, you know, that really give it some life. I really found it just really bold and exciting and visionary, you know.
It's like that scene in Midnight Cowboy, you know, when he goes like, I'm walking here, I'm walking. It's like everybody knows that scene, right? But it's like, it's because that cab almost hit Dustin Hoffman for real, you know. It's like, I think your mind just dog ears those things. It's just something like when the narrative and reality meet, you can take a picture of it. You know, it's something happened there that's not planned.
And I wondered, I mean, they say, I think it's a Truffaut quote, film is the perfect mix between, a good movie is the perfect mix between truth and spectacle, which I think it's interesting that you saw the truth of what was there in Detroit, but you knew to bring the spectacle. I think that's what was exciting about it. There's one of the greatest entrances I've ever seen. I rewound it like 3 times. Was Ava. I didn't even realize it was Ava. When she comes out and she dances towards the camera, I just thought that is one of the best entrances by an actress ever. And then the light comes on. I go, oh my God, Ava, I worked with her like 14 years ago.
She says hi, by the way.
Oh my gosh, she's terrific. What a terrific performance by her, but also just the entrance was surreal and beautiful. And how many of those things were in your head, and how much was just improved by everyone coming on board that you were like, wow, I never saw that coming? Or was it always like exceeded your grasp, but you always feel like you never really quite got what you wanted?
Some of those things were planned, like that was storyboarded. Most of the movie was storyboarded, and I storyboarded with. So the movie, like a big influence was The Secret of Nim, you know? And I became friends with one of the animators on that, and so he helped me storyboard the film. And that was a section that we storyboarded, but there were so many things that happened that that I didn't plan for. Like, for instance, that whole dance sequence that Ben Mendelsohn does at the end of the movie. It's like we kept talking about, like, well, what do you? He's like, well, like, what happens in the shells? Like, what am I gonna do? And I said, I don't know, man. It's up to you, And he's like, all right. So he said, all right, just set up the camera, and I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna do my thing, and I'm gonna leave. And and I said, okay. So but I didn't know what he was gonna do, and I put down the camera, and he came in with his iPad, and he put on "Bad Bitches" by Kendrick Lamar, and he just started this like terrifying dance routine, And he was like, it was amazing. It was so scary and awesome, and I didn't know how to feel, and I just, it's one of those things where I was just behind the camera. You must have those moments where you just like, you just
can't believe what I'm filming right now.
Yeah, it's like you're watching a unicorn being born or something. You don't know what to do. So, but Ben Mendelsohn is just, he's that kind of, it's like that every time with him. But those things happen a lot in the movie.
And when something like that, I mean, what was your shooting schedule? Did you have time to like try different things, or did you just go with a moment and then let it be, and then that was it, or how did that work?
Yeah, we didn't have, we shot on film as well, on 35, so we had very limited amount of film. Weren't able to do many takes, and we were a very short schedule. We were just like 25 days or something like that, so it was just whatever you got.
And what was the first cut you saw? How long was the first cut?
About 5 hours.
Yeah, I thought it might be that. And then how long did it take to cut it down? Sometimes you shoot, and then you look at it and you go, because that's a whole odyssey, is being in an edit room. How many versions, like, did you, I mean, you can go down a rabbit hole in there. I mean, how long was that? Was that a lot? There was a lot of discovery, a lot of just trying, are there different versions of it? Because I have several versions of some of my movies. What was that process like for you? Was that a big surprise to see how the editing worked?
It was very harsh, going from, because when you're making a movie, you have everybody around you and you're all in it together, and it's like
Then they have a rap party too, like
against,
they're done and your work's just beginning, and then you go sit in a room with 2 people, and
yeah, it's like, and then I went to Iceland to edit my movie, which I don't know why I did that. and I went there, and it was never got dark, and they're eating rotten shark. And it was just insanity, but I loved it, and I loved them, and they were great. But it was like to go from shooting like all nights in Detroit with all your friends and your family, and to being alone in Iceland, and it never got dark. And then you see your movie on like an iMac, right. And it just feels like this can't be what we made, And you have to totally readjust to what you're looking at. And you realize it doesn't matter how you shot it, where you shot it, what you did. This is what it is now. Yeah. And so that's like.
Yeah, it's a big shot. I mean, they say there's at least 3 versions. There's the movie you write, there's the movie you shoot, and then there's the movie that you edit. And it becomes different things through all those processes, and they're all fun and interesting. But yeah, editing can be the darkest, loneliest part of it, especially when you're doing something where you're trying to capture that, surreal quality and capture the truth and find the right balance, because there's so many ways that you can go.
Yeah, and I had,
Oh, I didn't know
there were a lot of,
Good.
I have no idea what that said.
It said, be more exciting, you guys.
I don't know what I was saying. So yeah, so I felt like also because we were trying to capture something, that felt like a dream, that turning into a nightmare, and it's like suddenly when we were in the edit, it just felt like, oh, we have a bunch of scenes, and the scenes were like cinder blocks or something, like just pulling you down, and so we had to find a way to like kind of do an elliptical editing thing, or learned how to do those, prelapse and all those things that sort of take you, where you hear something and it takes you into that stuff took a long time to learn how to do.
I'm going to take a couple of questions from the audience. Let's see. Hold up your hand if you want to ask a question. Yes, right here. In the glasses.
And there's a mic.
Yeah, we do have a microphone over here that
Just
I
yell it
believe
out because we
I've
don't have that
talked
much
about.
time left. I'll repeat your question.
So you chose to shoot on film. I understand that costs more. And why did you choose that for your first time?
Why did you choose to shoot film for your first time?
'Cause I thought it'd be cool. Well, I grew up watching films, and I thought, is this stuff really dying? Like, am I never going to get a chance to make one? I thought if I was going to, this is it, this was my shot. And also my cinematographer, Benoit Deby, he's Belgian and he doesn't care. He's going to shoot on film or he's not going to shoot on anything. So I had like an ally,
Another question? Right here in the front. What was the hardest part of the film to shoot?
Okay, and I say this with love because it ended up being some of my favorite stuff in the film. But the little boy in the movie is the best. He's so magical kid, but he did not like the camera. It would freak him out, and he would run away from it. And so when we tried to shoot scenes with him, that makes it hard, So I didn't know what we were going to do, and I didn't want to recast him because he's the best. But I was like, so I remembered seeing the making of Animal Planet, and I remember that they would wait for like weeks for the bird to come out of the nest, just for that one shot. And I was like, okay, I don't have weeks, but it's worth it, So we got really long lenses, and we hid in the bushes. It was like that movie Bowfinger, Where he's just like, he didn't know he was in a movie, but he was. And we did one thing where we hid in some laundry in his room. It was kind of also what I heard it was like to work with Marlon Brando on Apocalypse Now. So he just shows up, he does what he's going to do, and he drops the mic and he's out. But so that was hard, and it was scary because we had to throw out scenes, big scenes, important scenes. Wow. But we were like, God, this kid he's the best. There was no recasting him, and it was tough, but I think it really worked out. And in the end, it was better than what I had written, and it was like he's so magical that it was like worth it.
That's the magic that can happen. I mean, things never go according to plan. Right. Not that things go wrong, because it's what's wrong and right, really, but according to plan. I hear sometimes filmmakers say, oh, everything went wrong. It's like, that's the job. I mean, every day, everything's going to fall apart before your eyes. And that's also the blessing, if you just know how to capture it like that and go, okay, this kid's not working. Let's figure out another approach. That's for those accidents and those mistakes that happen. What was it like? Because the first thing I heard of this movie, I heard from Cannes and the news that people didn't like it there. What was your response when you went and you felt that? Because as filmmakers, we've all been there. What was your response? What did you feel when that happened?
I felt really bad.
They really like going, stick it in and break it off. But then you brought it here and you've taken it around. And what's the response been since then? Because it seems like people, I talked to Coppola about this because he said, oh yeah, failure, mistakes aren't necessarily bad, and they're not also, durable. Because people sometimes remember what the things that they fire you for when you're young are the things that give you lifetime achievement awards for when you're later. Because sometimes it rubs people the wrong way when it's a little different because it is good, and they don't realize it at first. I loved it right away, so I couldn't understand, what the what I know they're not into some of that surreal stuff over there, but how did the comeback happen that people now are really embracing it?
Well, it was like weird because, it was just sort of like, I mean, healthy criticism is good and you want it, because you want to get better. But it's like at a certain point, it feels like it's just like these people are determined to make you never do it again, and make sure no one ever sees it, and so it's hard to know how to like combat that. And then, and something I sort of looked at the movie and I thought, maybe they're right, maybe I'm crazy, but I love it, I just love it, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm proud of the work that everybody did in it. And it's like at a certain point you have to say, like, that's how I feel, and I wish you felt differently. But I still want people to see that there's like beautiful work in this movie from all the actors and the cinematographer and the composer and Detroit itself, And so we just thought, like, we want people to see this, so we just started, showing it and talking about it. And I feel like that, it's not for them anyway. It's for you, It's for like people who love movies and have an open mind. So
Excellent.
going out and being able to talk about it and show it has been really great.
And do you think you'll do another one? Hopefully you do.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's like you feel like you never, you don't really know how to make one until you make one. So now I feel we're just really excited to get back in there and do it again.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Give me a round of applause. So when I do these director chair interviews, it's always great to talk to guys who maybe a movie didn't get received as well. And those are like the most important pictures they can make. With Guillermo, he didn't even want to talk about Mimic during the interview, but you can see how much he learned from that and how much he still loved about it. Coppola, they had their knives sharpened for him before the movie even came out, all through Apocalypse Now. Now it's considered a classic, but they shit all over him for years. One of my favorite movies of his, this reminded me kind of that feeling, was Rumblefish, which again, he's in movie jail. He's supposed to be making commercial films, and he still can't help but go and make something like that. You got to be true to who you are and not worry about what people say, because sometimes, when John Carpenter made The Thing, they all shat on that too, and then within 10 years, that was considered a classic. Right. So you just kind of have to go with your gut and go with your instincts. That's all you got.
And one of my favorite films is Night of the Hunter.
Night of the Hunter's
Charles Lawton. They never directed again.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It's amazing. People hang it up and they go, I'm not doing that again. They must be right. That's the biggest crime, is if they convince you, that you shouldn't be doing it when you should.
Right.
You're doing it for all. When you color outside of the lines, you get in trouble. But sometimes that's kind of where you have to live and breathe. So I was really proud of what you did. I really thought you did a fantastic job.
Thank you, man. And thanks to the Alamo for having us.
Thank you, Alamo Draft House. Thank you all for coming. Are we wrapping it up? Excellent. Last question right here.
What inspired the whole nightclub scene? It kind of reminded me of a mixture of The Shining.
What inspired the whole nightclub scene?
I make nothing off it, but listen, here's the...
Is that the ghost of Adam Siegel? So the nightclub is inspired by the Grand Guignol, which I learned was sort of the birth of horror movies and horror cinema. It's like in Paris in the early 1920s, there was a whole scene of, this, the Hell Cafe, the Death Tavern, and the Grand Guignol. It was this whole really strange, macabre murder entertainment scene. And so we pulled a lot of references from that. The facade of the club is from the Hell Cafe. And
it's a great facade. Was that built? You all built that?
Yeah, we built that. The Helton.
Amazing. It was lit really wonderful. It looked like, looked like a painting.
There was the Helton brothers in Detroit, really talented family. They did a bunch of stuff for The Wizard of Oz.
When I saw that, I thought, okay, now I can see why Guillermo wanted to direct this. Guillermo del Toro kind of pushed you to make this film, or he was going to go and direct it, and I could see why. I mean, all the elements there that he probably wished he'd come up with himself to do, but you did it.
Well, I was shooting, so I'd been shooting for a year, and then I had a chance to meet Guillermo, and Guillermo has a man cave, and in that cave there's everything spooky, and there's a room where it rains all the time, and secret bookshelves and like life-size, like H.P. Lovecraft, just reading.
Like wax figures.
Wax
right?
figures and all the. Anyway, anything's possible in this house. So any idea you have is a great idea. And I showed Guillermo some of my footage, and I told him the idea, and he said, if you don't direct it, I will. And I'm sure he didn't mean that, but it was the coolest thing you could say. And it was like the wizard giving you your sword and your shield and saying, go out on, yeah. So yeah, he was great.
Did you always want to be a director? Did you ever see yourself directing, or was it that the story started coming to you and you were inspired to go learn how to make a film, or was it something you thought was inevitable? I forgot. I wanted to ask you that.
Well, when I started to have more choice as an actor, and in the movies I made, I realized, I guess I was more driven to work with directors than to play certain parts, to make certain kind of films. And I guess that, in retrospect, is kind of telegraphing that that's sort of what I was interested in. But this was really something that was just an experience that I had that I just was sort of chasing. And it was after a year of shooting that I thought, I guess this is a movie, and I guess I could try and convince somebody to direct it, or I could just keep going. So I think it happened in a nice way,
And if the process doesn't kill you, then you come back and do it again, because it is addicting. It's also, devastating and crushing most of the time.
Do you get
But
the
if
night sweats?
Oh, I don't even sleep
do?
when I'm shooting something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You start having nightmares about it. It really can take over but that's
Yeah, I had
kinda
6
what's
months
fun.
of the night sweats, and I was like, and I was trying not to say anything about it, and then I talked to another director, and they were like, how's it going? I said, oh yeah, it's great. He said, you getting the night sweats?
The night sweats. That's when you put yourself. Zemeckis said it really well. I just did a director's chair with him, and he said, "You've got to be very vulnerable. In a good way. You have to be an anarchist or a benevolent anarchist. You've got to be willing to put yourself out there. And a vulgar way of saying that, you got to be willing to put your dick on the windowsill. You let it hang out there.
Classic
We thank you, Ryan.
Zemeckis.
Oh, one more question. Okay, social media.
So we're going to
question?
do, yeah, so these cameras are here because we're live in a lot of other Alamo Draft houses around the country.
What?
Oh, hello, everybody. We didn't know that. Hi.
Yeah.
Son of a...
So we've had people tweeting in some questions using the hashtag Alamo Lost River. A lot of them are just about both of you taking your shirts off, and we're not going to do that. But
well,
speaking
maybe.
of
my
the
mom,
director
my
and
mom
the,
is at the Twitter again.
and other night sweats. Joshua
Sad.
J. Herrera, I think in Yonkers, asked Ryan, has your experience working on this film changed the way you work, or will it change the way you work with other directors?
Like, don't put that camera over there. It's
Yeah.
not a good angle.
Right.
I wouldn't do it that way.
Yeah. No, I'll take it easier on them now. I think now you understand sort of how the...
Or when they give you a direction you don't like, just say, "You're getting the night sweats, aren't you?"
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
I
it.
guess that was faster than I thought. So we'll do one more, but it's going to take me a second to find it. If you want to talk about night sweats again, metaphors we've talked about.
Night Sweats is like a terrible biography title.
Night sweats, the making of Lost River.
There's a question from Tristan James about, was it tough keeping a straight face during Mendelssohn's dance scene? You talked about it a little bit, but you didn't talk about your face as much.
He said he was smiling and he had his hand out. Yeah,
I don't know what my face was doing. I feel like my face was melting off.
I can't find who said it, but there was a one of the earliest ones was, what were your experiences with Detroit, and what are your thoughts about its chances for becoming a great city again? And that'll be the last one from our social media world.
Oh, that's a great last one. Because, look, that's the thing, is that we wanted to sort of share our experience there, and like the experience of some of the people living in these neighborhoods. And but at the same time, this is only one side of Detroit. There's so much more going on there. It's such an incredible city. It's going through this rebirth. It's reinventing itself in so many interesting ways. There's so many, like, like artists there that are sort of like reappropriating the area and turning it into their own thing, and also there's like tons of cool like businesses and you know, and I know now there's a lot of movies shooting there, so it's very diverse too. I mean, it's like, you know, New York and LA or whatever, they get shot so much, but there's like Detroit has such its own its whole like style and aesthetic, and it's got like many different aspects to it. I feel like you could shoot 10 movies there, and you would and there'd be 10 different movies. You would never know they were all in the same place. So I think it's very exciting that, you know, it's hard to know exactly how it's going to resolve itself, because they have some big issues to tackle. But they're ride or die. They're not leaving, and they're just filled with so much pride, and it's really exciting place to be and to work, and you should go whenever you get a chance. You should get an Alamo there for sure. For sure.
Thank you for being a true artist and a fearless artist at that. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thanks for coming.